everyone, Ipsy here. Today I'm going to show you how to make a large crocheted flower. This flower has two different layers to it, so you can make it two different colors. Today I'm going to be using a gold and a yellow. Other things you're going to need today are a crochet hook. I'm using an E-hook. I do suggest if you're a beginner to probably use more of an H or an I hook. A needle, and you will also need a pair of scissors. Okay, so to start, you're going to start with your inner color. This color will have petals on it. I am picking the lighter of the two, so that kind of shades the background. So you're going to start by either doing a magic ring, or I like to do my slip knot and then chain two. And then you're going to do 10 single crochets into the first chain or into your magic ring, whichever one you prefer. So okay, so there I have 5, and then I like to flip it kind of, so it's kind of the top of that chain. I like to kind of flip it to the bottom just so that it kind of ends up a little even once I'm halfway done. So all right, so that's 10, and then I'm going to count back and make sure that I have 10 and where the first one starts. Because sometimes, as you can see here, it gets a little buried underneath that first stitch, especially if you have more. So I'm just going to kind of try to pull that one out a little bit, at least enough so that I can get in there. It's kind of hard to show as I do that. Okay, so that I'm in that first one. Now you are going to join that with a slip stitch, which is part of why we need that stitch out. And then if you did my technique, I usually just pull on that middle thread a little bit. Kind of closes up the middle, not super necessary because you have so many stitches in that. All right, so to make the petals, so if you wanted to just do yellow on the inside, middle section of that flower, this is where you would change to a different color. I am going to leave the entire top layer yellow for my flower today. All right, so you're going to chain 2. You're going to do a half double crochet in that same stitch that you slip stitched in a second ago. Half double. And then you're going to do 2 double crochets. That's 2. Maybe. It does get a little tricky. The more stitches you put into it, but it should be okay. Then you're going to do a half double and a single. There's quite a few in that one stitch, so but it'll make the petal look nice. And then you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Okay. Then, actually that slip stitch, you should only be slip stitching into that top loop. As you can see, there's almost, it looks like a V. So just go into the front loop. This is because we're doing the double side or the double layered flower. If you just did a single layered, it's not a big deal. Okay, you're going to repeat that. So you're going to go chain 2 again. And then you're going to do in that front loop of the next one, only the front loop, a half double, 2 doubles, another half double, and a single crochet. And then again, in only the front loop, you're going to do a slip stitch. Sometimes it's a little tricky, especially right after you've put that many stitches into one stitch to get into the next one. Okay, and you're just going to keep going around. So I'm going to finish up mine really fast, and then I'll meet you back. So make sure that you're doing those petals. If you need to rewind the video to figure out what stitches to do, then you can do that. Or you can pause, and I will meet you back here in a second. All right, and I am back. I finished up that layer of petals. So I'm just going to cut this off. Not too long, not too short, kind of wherever you want. And then you will see, you should have, can't really see it on mine, but you should have those back loops. So I'm just going to attach it to one of them. It doesn't really matter which one. I actually wanted to attach it to one that's on the back of a flower petal, because I think it'll look nicer to have that second layer kind of off kilter a little bit. So you're just going to attach to your next color. Again, I'm using a darker goldish color. Just pull it through and then do a chain. Okay, so what you're going to do next, well, I already did one chain, so I'm going to go ahead and do the others. So there's 3 chains total. So that was 1, 2, 3 chains. And then you're going to, in the next stitch, do a double crochet. So there's a double crochet. A treble crochet, or 2 treble crochets actually. So here's one. Whoops. Treble crochets are, I feel like, one of the trickiest. They just tend to slip off my hook. I'm not sure why. Okay, so there's 2 trebles. Okay, and then you're going to do another double crochet. Okay. And then a slip stitch in that same stitch. Oops. Slip stitch. Okay. Now, then you're going to find the next one, the next stitch, which I think is that one. And you're going to slip stitch in that one too. Okay. And then, same as the last round, you're just going to do the same thing. So you're going to chain 3. So there's my chain 3. You're going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. And remember that these are the backs, or the back loops of those stitches you just did. So they might be a little tricky to find, but you should be able to find them. Okay, so there's a double crochet. Then you're going to do 2 trebles again. So there's 1. And 2. And then another double. And the last one is a slip stitch back in that same stitch. Okay. Actually, and before I jump off to finish this, find the next stitch and slip stitch in that one. Okay, so you're going to want a total of 5 stitches on that row 2. Now, this is why I was saying I wanted it to be in a certain spot that I attached it, because then it's kind of a shadow on the back of that. If you wanted them to line up and kind of look like that more, kind of have to pull it a bit so it shows, but that's also fine. It's kind of up to what you're doing, what you're using it for, what look you like best. So I'm going to finish this up. If you need to rewind, pause, all that kind of stuff, go for it. and I will meet you back here in a second. All right, I finished up my background color. You kind of have to play with those a little bit to get them to be placed where you want them exactly, but if you're making it as an applique or whatever, you can easily stitch those into place too. And then the last thing to do is you're just going to want to take a needle and just kind of pull in those ends a little bit. Obviously, they don't have to be perfect. I usually, well, for this one, I would just pull it through those petals. And that should give you enough leeway to, be able to snip them off and have enough in there so that it's not gonna unravel on you, because that's the biggest part. You don't necessarily want your ends to show, but you also don't want them to unravel. So okay, so I just did those 3. I'm gonna snip off this one, and I just snip them really close. Sometimes there's a tiny bit that shows, but it's not gonna show to the point that it's a problem, or it'll hide itself, honestly. Okay, and then I just have this last one, which I'm going to just thread through probably this area right here, if I can, on the front. Okay, and then I'm just going to snip that. Okay, and there you have it. It's all done. There's the front, there's the back, which I think the back could look really nice if you wanted to do that too. Flip them back and forth on a blanket or whatever. But yeah, it's done for you to do whatever you want with it. Play with the petals a little bit to make them look how you want. There's obviously different ways that they can look, and it kind of depends on what you want to do with it. So there is that. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have questions, please be sure to comment down below and ask them, and I will do my best to answer them. If you liked today's video, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Bye.